Hello, everyone. My name is Naimah Hassan. I come from Somaliland, and I was raised here. I am a proud, proud Cardiff girl. You probably know Cardiff for our beautiful bay, our world-class Principality Stadium, our enchanting castles. But when I was growing up in Cardiff in the 90s, it was known for another reason, for the risk of FGM, female genital mutilation. Now, you may be thinking, that's got nothing to do with us here in Britain, has it? It's an African thing, or it's a Muslim thing. Well, did you know, according to the NSPCC, 137,000 girls are at risk of FGM in England and Wales. Think of Principality Stadium, crammed full of girls, then double it. All of them at risk of being genitally cut. And not necessarily cut in this country, because girls are often cut abroad in what is called the cutting season. Sometimes they're cut as babies when it's even harder to detect. Around the world, 200 million girls are at risk. So before you stands a Welsh Somali woman, and today I want to tell you something that affects both parts of my heritage and upbringing. And to do so, I need to tell you about another African. His name is Augustine of Hippo, and the inspirational words he wrote about hope and her two daughters, anger and courage. Now, let me tell you about anger. I met her in 2007. I just graduated, and just like many other 20-something-year-olds, I was on a quest to find out who I was and where I belonged in the world. That quest took me back to beautiful Somaliland. I met relatives who I haven't seen in decades, and I was struck by two things. Firstly, how well they lived, and secondly, by the women. Strong, brave, beautiful women, except every single one of them had been cut. Now, let me tell you what I mean by this. I mean that they were all, as girls, genitally cut, usually without anesthetic, and usually by someone with no medical qualification. FGM causes terrible pain and suffering, both physical and psychological. My cousin was mutilated twice before the age of 10. The first time, she was 7. It happened at home. She remembers being excited and looked forward to her initiation, just like her friends. She had no idea that this initiation involved her legs being pulled apart by her nearest and dearest, her clitoris and labia being cut off without anesthetic by a razor, being stitched up, and her legs tied together for weeks. She remembers the unspeakable pain, the betrayal, feeling completely isolated, the shock. Then some years later, the stitches came loose, but her mum insisted that she had to get stitched up again. You see, people in my community believe in all this. They think it's how a value of a girl is defined. They want girls to be good, compliant, clean, culturally respectable, marriageable. They are the protectors of FGM, and they celebrate it as an important part of our identity. And they don't often speak about the consequences, because they too were cut. They too were abused as children. And it makes me so angry. It fills me with fury from my sisters across 30 countries who are going through this now, today, this very moment. Every year, another 3 million girls will be cut. Why? For what? To control women? To control their sexuality? To make us good girls? Well, if that's good, I don't want to be that kind of good. Now you may be thinking, okay, that's some terrible African thing, right? but societies across the world have policed women's sexuality. In the 1800s here in the UK, clitoridectomy, the surgical removal of the clitoris, was an acceptable practice. And more recently, it's been practiced in the US to prevent masturbation. In many countries, people say, it's a religious requirement. It's not. It's an unbreakable tradition. Traditions can be broken. It's the only way to secure a stable future with a suitable husband. But what kind of man wants his wife to experience excruciating pain? Reason after reason, justification after justification, lie after lie, they make me angry too, and we need to challenge them. Right, now let me tell you something about Hope's other daughter, Courage. Back in Somaliland, alongside the protectors of FGM, I met men and women bravely breaking the silence. I now work with these extraordinary people across 7 countries. We work with activists, community workers, religious leaders, and journalists bravely breaking the silence. We do this by training them on how to use media, to start conversations, to reframe FGM as child abuse, to hold their leaders accountable by turning FGM into a national priority. We work with people like Ifrah Ahmed, an extraordinary anti-FGM campaigner in Somalia. In 2018, Ifrah traveled to Dusamareb, a small city over 500 kilometers from Mogadishu, to make a film about Deqa Ahmed Noor, a 10-year-old that died from FGM, a slow, painful death that took 2 days. Ifrah is already doing incredible work in her community. But with her drive and passion, coupled with our media expertise, we were able to turn an ordinary story to an extraordinary story about FGM. We've already seen the power of media for campaigns like Ebola and contraception, but we've never seen it before for FGM. This was the first film that Ifrah made that made national news, and it broke the silence. Ifrah herself is a survivor of FGM and wanted this film to be a catalyst for change in Somalia.
message kaliya aan rabo inaan u diro Soomaalidu xataa meeqa deeqo oo kale ah dhimato meeqa iyadoo kale ah dhiig baxdo meeqa iyadoo kale ah maalintii la gudaa meeqa ka badbaadin karna hadda qof walba oo mataqaana cod leh oo hadlo yani waa dareemi kartaa hooyo iyo aabbe sidee dareemayaan ee gabadhooda u dareemayaan geerideeda.
This film was seen by millions of people across Somalia and the diaspora. It's had an incredible impact. People are now more aware that their daughters can die from FGM, just like Deqa.
meel suuqa ah oo dad wax ka gadanayaan oo suuqa ana dad ku sheekaysanayaan maqla dadkii su'aal baan weydiiyay waxaan gabadha xagee lagu guday ma naqaan waa maqlay bay yiraahdeen raadiyahan ka maqlay inay galmadu ku dhimatay la guday gudniin fircooniyo loo guday kadibna ay gabadhaas geeriyootay intaasaan ka maqlay gabadha meediyaha qaar ka arka qaar hadal ku maqla dadka reer baadiyaha xitaa waxay ku maqlay dhagtay ku maqlay marka hadda waxa dhacay marka gabadhii la dhaho waxa ku dhig bax baa ku dhacay inay la soo carraan
ma idaacada ka dhageysanay meelahaas oo galgaduud iyo meelaha maqaan ku dhimatay aan maqlayna anaka marka maqlana idaacada fiidkii markii dhig baxdi ka dhageysanayna cawadeyna kadib aan baawuraha dalbado waa soo qaadnay iska dib isbitaalka keenay saas ku keenay.
By increasing media coverage and telling more stories that are relatable, the value of the girl and what good really means is slowly shifting, region by region, village by village, girl by girl.
Tani waa sheekadeyda. Tani waa sheekadeyda. Tani waa sheekadeyda. Tani waa sheekadeyda. Tani waa sheekadeyda.
Every day, I'm humbled by the courage of thousands of men and women like Ifrah. Through their work and our support, FGM is slowly becoming a thing of the past. This is courage. Closer to home, it's my mother's courage I admire most. the decisions and the sacrifices she made so my sisters and I can live our best lives. My cousin's reality could have very easily been mine. FGM is one of the biggest violations of human rights on the planet. It's inflicted on some of the world's most vulnerable people because of their youth, because of their gender. It's not something that's inevitable. It's something that we've created, and it's completely solvable. FGM has been illegal in the UK for 30 years, but only this past January we've seen the first conviction here in the UK. If you want to know more, if you want to know how to protect a child from being cut, somewhere, perhaps abroad, perhaps in this country, then go to our website. But let me be clear as Augustine of Hippo was. We will need both anger and courage to end FGM. How soon we can bring this to an end, how many more girls are needlessly cut, how many more girls will suffer, well, that's dependent on how many more of you want to get involved. It's simply a matter of maths, a numbers game. And in that fight, every single one of you can help. Thank you.